good day. And we are back with not another episode, but as promised, we are highlighting the National Protection Child Month. And so what we are aiming to do the duration of the month is to look at child abuse, but through different variations, or the different organizations that deals with child abuse. And so tonight we do have Jacqui from the Missing Minors, the Pink Ladies as we know them. We have them on our a interview tonight, and then from next week we will have another organization going. So as mentioned, it's, it's not the and Jacqui can correct me. It's more the national protection for child abuse that is going that we are celebrating. Well, it should have been from the 5th to the 12th, so we're basically ending off the week. But we're making it a whole month of talking about child abuse, right? And so, as mentioned, is tonight we have the missing persons or missing minors, the Pink Ladies, with us tonight. And so, I want to give you an opportunity to just kind of introduce yourself. Who are you, and what does your organization does?
Super. Hi. It's very nice to be with you. Thank you for inviting us. We're the Pink Ladies Organization for Missing Children. We're up as Missing Minors on Facebook. That's where we do most of our work on social media. And we do have a website as well that people can go and have a look at. That's at www.pinkladies.org.za. We started in 2007, in March of 2007, when a young girl went missing in Pretoria, a little blue-eyed, blonde-haired girl by the name of Sheldine Himon. And everybody looked for her, and we searched high and low, and very, very many people got involved. And sadly, she was eventually found murdered. And at the time, the society was just completely outraged by it. So many people had become involved and had spent an enormous amount of time and emotion on looking for her and hoping we would find her. And then, very sadly, within 2 weeks, another girl went missing in a different area, but both girls were wearing pink tops and denim skirts at the time. And pink just seemed the right color, and we just named ourselves the Pink Ladies, and we decided that we had to do something as mothers, grandparents, many of us single parents, and we just felt that we had to do something. And even if we couldn't stop this happening to every child, our motto is just one more. And that's what helps us sleep at night, and it's our way of giving a little bit of something back to society.
Okay. What is child abuse? Let's start off with that. What is child abuse?
There are so many different spheres. Sorry, I've got my puppy here too tonight. Um, there are so many different angles to this. It could be anything from ignoring your child and neglecting them, right through to actively abusing or physically harming them. There's psychological abuse, there's emotional abuse, there's financial abuse. There are just so many different spheres, and one has to look at it as a large picture. You have to paint on a big canvas. And sometimes the smallest thing could be abusive. And very, very many people are just not educated, and they don't realize that what they're doing is abusive.
Okay. When you, or rather, let's do this one first. How do you report abuse?
Well, your first point of call would be, I would say, to get hold of one of the social welfare officers. Many towns have got an organization called FAMSA, which assists the public. And then you have your social welfare workers. Many of them work in the private sector, and many of them work for government as well. Unfortunately, they are like hen's teeth. They're very few and far between. So it is difficult to get hold of them. But for instance, in Port Elizabeth, we have an organization called PE Mental Health, and they work very, very closely with children as well. So if you hop onto Google and search for child welfare or psychological well-being of children, you will find something.
Okay. So best is to first, as not as we would think, is to go to the police station. It's actually social workers.
Mm. Absolutely,
Okay.
because what might appear to be abuse, in one person's eyes, might not necessarily be abuse. Especially if it's due to a family who's in financial difficulty, or you've got a single mom who's battling to cope. Are you going to fix the problem by reporting her to the police? You've got to look at whether that family will be fractured or whether the problem will be made worse. So rather try and assist where you can, perhaps get involved personally and see how you can help. Maybe it might just be a shortage of food, or the mother is just not coping and she needs coping mechanisms.
Okay. And it probably brings my question to this. When you kind of lay it out like this, you can't kind of, all child abuse is not all bannered under one umbrella almost. It is kind of different things, and you need to, and I think that is why social workers comes in, because they need to kind of differentiate to which umbrella
Yes.
this
Mm.
child abuse goes to. Okay.
Absolutely, and who's better trained to look at it from a professional angle? As I say, one person's what might appear to be abuse, when you see something, might not be, and you might just be getting that family into more trouble than helping them.
Hmm. Okay. Seeing that you touched on this, and I don't know if this is your expertise or anything, we will be talking to a foster home next week, and then we will get a bit
Mm-hmm.
more into there. You mentioned that getting the family into trouble, and I think this is also a thing where people almost don't wanna report child abuse because they think they themselves will get into trouble. So
Mm-hmm.
is it an anonymous thing that you can do?
You can report these sort of things anonymously, even if you have to go as far as reporting it to police. If there's definitely physical abuse involved and sort of serious abuse, you can very easily tell the police that you, or the police official that you're dealing with, that you don't want your name to be mentioned, and they are bound to keep that a secret as well.
Okay. So before we go into anything else, let's maybe focus on your organization. So you guys, um, as more, is it just when it comes to missing kids, or is it also a possibility of reporting a situation or missing person, a child that's being abused through the organization?
Well, look, let me start off by saying essentially children are creatures of habit. Children don't run away for no good reason. If you think about your average 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old, they love their home comforts, they love their internet connection, they love their music, they love their friends. And for a child to leave that very safe, secure environment, something has got to be really wrong. Yes, they can be lured away by other factors, but you've got to look at the home environment first and foremost. So again, it's be very careful about what you're looking for. Don't paint a picture that's not there.
Mm.
And obviously, if there's serious abuse involved, or you feel that you can't handle it and you don't know how to approach it, the best thing then is to approach a professional person.
Okay. Okay. And then, and I've mentioned to you this. This is something that I actually want to concentrate on. A child goes missing, and often does. So the child goes missing. We see the pink flyers. We've come to know these flyers as look out. We need to share because a child is missing, and
Mm,
then 2 weeks later, sometimes 3 days later, not even 2 weeks,
mm,
the child pitch up, and the poster now says found. Um,
mm,
we don't know where the child was, but eventually through the grapevine, we hear no, the child has been found by the boyfriend or a friend's house,
mm,
etc. Does these kind of incidences, let's call them that, um, play an impact in how we look at child abuse?
mm. It may, and this is something that's come up on many occasions. We've often had instances where people have put a comment on one of our flyers saying, "Ah, naughty child, give them a hiding and send them home." But
Mhm.
what people forget is from the moment that child leaves home and is out on the streets, they're vulnerable. It doesn't matter how they got there. The point is that they are vulnerable. I mean, if one looks at a situation where a, a cancer patient develops cancer, is it their fault? They got into that situation. Yes, they might have smoked or drank too much or whatever, but the point is they are in that situation. Does that mean they need the help any less than anyone else? And I think quite rightly, we can't say that. So from the moment that child is in that vulnerable position, they deserve just as much help as anybody else. And there must be a root cause somewhere, whether it be an argument at home or they're not coping at school. Especially now during the pandemic that we're having. If us adults are battling, what is happening to our children? They're not built to cope with this sort of thing.
Yeah. So I would, by the looks at it, it also kind of looks that there must be more awareness with regards to
Mm-hmm.
mental illness more, so that we can understand
Mm-hmm.
this and not just, ah, it's just a naughty child.
Absolutely. And what one also has to remember, and this is something that we try and impress on people, a child's face is not put out on social media just willy-nilly. It's something that is very well thought out. We do not put a child's face on social media because minors' photos may not be published in terms of our legislation. And it's only because of the fact that the parents have gone to the police, they've signed a declaration, and they've given the police permission to do that. And only then do we publish that child's picture. A lot of people don't realize that it's actually illegal to publish minors' faces on any sort of social media, especially if they're victims of a crime or they may be a victim of a crime.
Okay. Okay. So let's, because I think there in what you just said now is also a bit of learning, that when a
Mm-hmm.
child, because like just as child abuse, you would think as a civilian that when you see child abuse, you automatically goes to the police station, which is,
Mm-hmm.
we've now heard, is not really the correct procedure to do. Rather go to a social worker for child abuse. When it comes to a missing person, what do you do? What is that procedure?
Well, there is an absolute myth that we've been trying to squash for the last 20 years, and that is that you have to wait 24 or 48 or 72 hours. There is no such thing. It's never existed in this country. I think it's an overhang from the USA where they do that with a lot of adults because adults have the right to go missing if they want to, quite frankly. The same in South Africa. But if you have a missing person, particularly a child or a vulnerable person, someone who may be suicidal, suffering from depression, are you really going to wait 24 hours to see what the outcome is going to be? That
Yeah.
person needs your help straight away. So what
Okay.
you would do then is you'd immediately proceed to a police station or call the police to send a unit to your home and report it immediately. Once you've done that, contact us. We will then work with the police. Our forms are based on their forms, which makes them very easy to fill in. And we get the ball rolling and we create the awareness. We can, within literally seconds or minutes, get that information out to the public. And that is why very often children are found, literally the missing flyer goes up and within a couple of hours the child is found.
Because of that awareness and community you kind of build throughout the years.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, and this, I don't know if this would be a difficult question. Oftentimes, when kids goes missing, you then find that the perpetrator is one of these people that goes and search for them. How does that kind of also play into child abuse, or what is that?
That did happen in our very first case. The gentleman who had actually abducted the child and murdered them was in amongst the search party. And I think looking back on it now, it would have been, the whole thing would have been solved sooner if people had just spoken out earlier. It turned out much later. Obviously, hindsight is 2020. There were people that had concerns about this particular individual, but nobody had stuck their necks out and said, "Look, there's something funny going on here." It turned out that not only was that child abused and something had happened, other children were being affected by it as well. But because of the stigma and the taboo attached to child abuse and pedophilia and so on, people didn't want to talk.
Sure. Okay. So, from just what you are saying now, it would seem there's a link between child abuse and a missing child. It kind of goes hand in hand,
Mm.
or am
Very
I?
often it does. No, very often it does. And sadly, your perpetrator is usually not a total stranger. Stranger abductions are actually very rare, because it's just the way it works. You have, if you look at the demographics of South Africa, particularly the townships, you've got
Mm,
huge numbers of people concentrated in an area. Many of them are extended family or friends of family. And you've got this huge number of adults forced into a situation where their children that are not only theirs, but other people's children.
mm,
You've got huge amounts of drinking going on. You've got drug problems. You've got social problems. And unfortunately, where those things happen, you're bound to get this sort of crime popping up as well.
mm, mm. Okay, I hear you. I hear what you're saying. So missing, when a child goes missing, it's not just because he is naughty, or sometimes yes, you can maybe link it to teenagers, they going through the changes and wanting their own um way, and kind of going through these emotions of who am I now. Yes, we get, but mostly it is linked to some kind of child abuse that has been happening, and that is an escape
Mm.
route for them.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
yeah. Now you were saying?
And not also only just child abuse, the peer pressure.
Mm,
There's tremendous peer. I mean, you look at Facebook. I mean, I've been watching kids' profiles. I have three of my own children that I brought up pretty much single-handedly, and children are so reliant on their peer circle,
mm,
for acknowledgement, for propping up, and so on. I've seen so many children post a picture saying, "Oh, don't I look great today?" And the horrendous comments
mm,
from people that don't like them, and they might not be smart enough to keep their friend circle tight. A comment like that can break a child and push them
yeah,
over the edge. And we need to equip kids,
yeah,
not only as parents, but that where they say that it takes a village to raise a child. I reckon it takes two or three villages to raise a child. Um, what happened in the old days? We'd go playing in the park, and all the moms
mm,
who lived around the park would keep an eye on everybody's child. And that's why one of our catchphrases is every child is my child, and
mm,
that's the way it should be. And we've lost that.
yeah. So yeah, there's also a big shift when it comes to communities,
Mm,
as it's like this is the pink lady's problems. That is that what you
mm,
almost getting towards, like when someone is missing, I go and report, and this is not our child
mm.
anymore. The pink ladies will sort this out. Is that
It
where we're
does
going
happen,
to
and sadly, we spend a huge amount of time, and I can't call it wasted time at all because it's not, but we spend a huge amount of time educating adults on how to take care of their own children. We've lost that nuclear sense of family,
now?
where everybody is so wrapped up in their own little bit. How many people know who their neighbors are? I mean, I live in a complex, and my neighbors on the one side I got to know immediately because we just happened to bump into each other on the day they moved in. But I had a neighbor living on the other side for several years who we never even really spoke to because they kept to themselves. We don't know the names of our neighbors. So if you can imagine, even in a complex situation, when a child goes missing, what do you do?
Mm,
You don't even have a contact number for most of the people that live around you, which is incredibly sad. Which is one of the reasons why in our complex we've set up a safety group, we've set up a community social group, especially
mm,
now during the pandemic, so that people who need to reach out can do that. And even if it's just for a bunch of old folks to get on a group and chat about what the weather's like today, there's
mm.
that ability to reach out, and we need to foster that.
Yeah. So we've almost come to a place where all the emergency numbers is just for emergencies. And we
Mm,
kind of
mm,
I don't need your number until it is an emergency.
mm,
So when that's an emergency, all the shock and everything sets in, and you actually do
mm.
not know where to go.
Absolutely, and people panic and they don't know where else to go. I mean, how easy would it be if you live in a complex and you have, let's say, you even have just 10 families' phone numbers? Something terrible happens, you need an ambulance or your child goes missing or whatever. There's 10 people that you can start off with and say, my child is missing, keep an eye out for me. And then you can go to the police station and you've got somebody who can be there for you. How many people do that?
Yeah. And I think because kids learn from our habits, I think that is
Mm-hmm.
also where we see a lot of kids kind of almost, you know, because we work a lot with bullying. And I've actually liked the fact that you mentioned all these social ills. So it means that all of these things are interlinked, which we've never really looked at.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of look as bullying as one thing, we look as child abuse as one thing, um, we look at something else, but it's actually all intertwined, like a very delicate kind of wiring that is happening. And we're not looking at
Mm-hmm.
everything. We just keep them in their different pods and hope that everything will work out. So there's a lot of awareness that it would seem that we would need to do in communities when it comes to what is our role in everything. And then
Mm-hmm.
also work with our kids in boosting their self-esteem, um, when things like bullying and cyberbullying happens on a platform like Facebook, where it almost seems like, and the way you're talking is like we've been going through COVID way, way before COVID actually struck. So we were busy in this isolation pods. We were building it up
Yes.
already before we hit COVID actually.
Mm. Absolutely. Something I said when the pandemic broke was that if anything, this will teach us who the good people are and who the people are we should stay away from, because
Yeah,
unfortunately it has shown the absolute best and worst in people,
yeah,
and that happens in major times of trouble, in war times,
mm,
and this is a war we're fighting. Just because it's invisible doesn't mean it's not a war.
yeah, sure. Okay. So Um, and I don't know if I'm just going to tap into maybe the other organizations because I would ask them some of your questions as well. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
in a situation, let's call it, the child is there, he has gone missing, we found him. Um, do they go for counseling now, or is it just up to the family for, let's see what happened?
Well, in our instance, because we work so closely with the police, a minor child, anything under the age of 18 years, there's a specific standard operating procedure for dealing with those children. And in those cases, the what they now call the family and child services, which is essentially what the old child protection unit used to do,
Mm-hmm.
they will be involved. Any person under the age of 18 is still a child, and they will be called in. There will be a specific officer who deals with it, and if needed, they will call in the welfare. They will investigate what the situation is, if there is abuse happening, if the child was perhaps lured away by an older person, and all of that becomes very important, because for an organization like ours, it's all very well creating the awareness and helping to find that child. But are you now going to take a child out of a troubled position who's run away for a good reason? Maybe
Mm-hmm.
you don't think it's a good reason, but they do. And then put them right back into that terrible situation that drove them away in the first place, and then
Mm-hmm.
turn your back on them.
Sure.
That would be
Yeah.
an absolute derelict of duty, as far as I'm concerned.
Mm. So you guys more there's a holistic approach almost where
Mm.
you kind of work with the foster homes and the social workers and the police and everyone
Mm.
else to try and solve this multifaceted problem in a way.
Absolutely. I mean, we do a huge number of cases where we work with the police under their direction for
Mm,
homes where children have gone missing. And very often you find when children who live in a children's home go missing, there's always one or two or three of them that go missing at the same time,
mm,
and they'll band together and they'll take off together. And although we treat every single case as a separate case, we do often find that the two or three of them usually go missing from the same home at the same time.
sure. What are some of the challenges that you find with this um job, or yeah, let's call it a job?
Oh, so many. But I must say we've got an incredible group of volunteers. If you have a look at I'm sure you've had a good look at our web page on Facebook. Um, and our volunteers jump on and off what we call our pink bus from time to time. They're always there. They come and go. Our adage is family first, and people will come and go as they need to. But the important thing is that cohesion that group brings about. And as I say, a lot of them are single parents, a lot of them are moms, grannies, aunties, uncles, and it's all like-minded people, which is, I think, what really makes it work. And if you think about the degrees of separation, you might send a post out and think you're doing your little bit by sending it to one or two friends. But those two friends will send it to other people and so on. And you have this incredible snowball effect, which is also something interesting I should bring up here, is that when we create a missing flyer, when the found flyer happens, we replace that original flyer. The first flyer comes down. So if you've posted that link, it will automatically change. And we encourage people to rather use the link to forward and to share, because then you'll get that automatic change. What you don't want is a million kids' pictures out there and according to you, they're still missing. So
Yeah, I
the
actually
whole
wanted to
social
ask.
media thing works, yeah.
Yeah, I actually wanted to
Far
ask
more.
you about that. Because what I've also found is like I get a post on my Facebook page, share this because this child is missing, and then afterwards, like, no, in my comments, it's like, no, the child's been found already.
Mm,
And I'm like,
mm,
oh, okay. So now these days, I'm almost like in a, should I send this? Have the child been found? Or what
mhm,
is happening? So I actually like the fact that you're saying rather than post from your page and not from someone
mm,
else's shared
mm,
page. So
mm.
that is a nice learning for, yeah, for us right now.
Yeah. And if you need to, just copy the link. You can copy the link for that particular flyer, and you
Mm.
can put it into an email, onto WhatsApp or whatever. And whoever clicks on that link will be redirected back to the original site. So you won't have that confusion. What does cause a little bit of confusion, and we've picked this up, but there's nothing that one can really do about it, is that when people might perhaps know the family and they'll say, oh, that person's been found, don't share anymore. I
Mm.
can't even describe to you how many times someone has come in and said that, and the child has still been missing, because the rumor spreads like wildfire. So very often somebody will say, oh, no, they've been found. Meantime, it's another child, or the child might have been found, but they've not been returned home yet. And with each missing person's case, there has to be a Form 92 affidavit filled in when that person is found. And until that happens, it didn't happen. That's
Oh,
the easiest way to look at it. So for a child can't just pick up a phone and phone, let's say, the police officer and say, oh, well, I'm not missing. I'm at my friend's place. I'm fine, and think it all goes away. It doesn't.
mm.
That case has to be investigated and it has to be closed efficiently.
Okay. Now I've learned something. Well, you know, this is why we do this. Well, I've definitely learned now not to just share
Mm-hmm.
from someone. Actually, go into your link, copy, and then share it from there because then it will be updated. Awesome
Mm-hmm.
stuff. I love that. And then also don't just listen to rumors. Actually wait until the found post has come out. I love that also.
Absolutely. And even more so in a case where a child or an adult is found deceased, which sadly does happen. And I can't imagine anything worse than for a family to read on Facebook that their child has been found dead.
Mm.
It's heartless. And unfortunately, sex and death sells. And you will have people who will have seen a news report. And obviously, when the police put out a report, they'll say a body was found in whatever area. People will sometimes match the two together and they'll say, oh, no, that child's been found and they're dead. I cannot think of anything more horrifying than having a parent read something like that. That is why we have forensics and that is why we have investigations. And it's just absolutely heartless for somebody to even think of putting up a post like that, even if it is the truth.
Mm.
Rather follow procedure. I mean, we all, just about all on social media now. We have extended family. Imagine the aunt and uncle sitting in a different country, even
Yeah.
having to read about something like that on Facebook. It's just inhuman.
Mm. Yeah. So protocol is wait until you guys tell us what is
Mm,
happening.
yeah.
It's just easier because you guys
Mm,
almost close the loop, as I understand
mm,
it now.
absolutely. Mm,
Awesome. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I've actually been learning a lot today when it
mhm,
comes to the volunteers, because it seems that you
mhm,
guys run on volunteers a lot. How does
mm.
that work?
We have a core group, obviously our two directors, myself and Des, that work very close together. We're the co-founders and the directors. Then we have a few members of the organization itself. Then we have key task team members who work in the different provinces for us, and the volunteers, which, as I say, are generally people who are interested parties who will come to our
Okay.
Facebook page and they will join. And I use the term volunteer very loosely because it's strictly voluntary. We're not talking about people who signed up and so on.
Mm.
If you want to do any kind of work with us and not have to have that tie to an organization, you can just join our Facebook page and you can do your bit by sharing and caring.
Okay. Okay. So it's not like I sign up and I must go look in the bush somewhere for a
No,
child and my
absolutely
nose
not.
is shattered
Yeah,
to a tear. Okay, so it's if you want to, all your the biggest thing for you guys is in sharing the information, I would say.
absolutely. Creating awareness. Yeah.
Mm,
I mean, we've got the police, they do the investigations. Although in certain instances we assist with that sort of thing if asked,
mm,
the police have a job to do, and we're not taking it away from them. We're assisting and enhancing their capabilities. We provide a lot of IT support. We help with getting their documents in order. They'll send certain documents to us, and we'll help with enhancing photographs and that sort of thing. Um, and in no means are we taking over what they do. That's not what we're there for. I like to put it this way, that we act as essentially a bridge between the SAPS and the community, and we assist them to work with each other.
oh, okay. That also makes a lot of clearer because essentially also when you think about pink lady, she's like, okay, maybe if I and I don't know, maybe these people out there thinking this way, like if I see something, I will have to go out there and do it as well.
Mm,
You know,
mm,
so we now get the gist of it when it comes to when especially the pink lady side. It's to share the link from your Facebook page because it gets updated then immediately, and also do not spread rumors that a child has been found alive or deceased until you get that poster to say this is what's happened,
mm,
because else you kind of
mm,
interfere with the link that you guys have set
mm,
up.
mm.
Okay, so
And that also goes back to something that you mentioned earlier,
mhm,
about the public wanting to know what happened, because they'll see a found flyer, and of course the first thing everyone wants to do is what happened. They want to know the
mhm,
background story. Um, and a lot of people are not going to like what I'm going to say here, and that is, it's got nothing to do with anybody. It's that family's problem. Very often it's a social problem. And who wants their
mhm,
dirty laundry aired on any kind of social media platform? At the
mhm.
end of the day, the important thing is that person is returned and that they're in good health and that they get help. And that's what should be important.
Yeah.
It's like an accident scene. Of course, everyone wants to stop and take photographs and tell everybody about this terrible accident they saw. But what really matters at the end of the day? And that's what's important.
And in the process they cause another accident, and yeah, it's just
Mm,
a bigger mess. Yeah, so the
mm,
lesson that we've learned here in stopping everything, because I think a lot of people, and we're going to say it again, is that we kind of um before we used to make this potluck food where everything goes into one pot.
mm, mhm,
um and kind of what happened is over this year as time is that we take bullying out. So the potatoes is now separate. We do this potato separate. We take
mm,
the rice separate. We
mm,
so it's, the bullying is outside there. The missing child is outside there.
mm,
The abused child is outside here. The child that
mm,
gets raped, it's also not together, so it's outside
mm,
here. And
Mhm.
so we don't see the meal as one. We just see it as
And
these
and then
diff-
and then we forget that someone's allergic to mushrooms and don't put mushrooms in the pot.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah,
as you
yeah,
say, it's
yeah.
such a multifaceted thing. You can't look at it from just one angle.
Exactly. And so and that is what we're gonna try and do this month is but starting with you guys and then looking at all these how does everything actually play and fit and try and fit the puzzle
Mm,
back with each other. So you've kind of went through the challenges that you guys have.
mm,
What are some of the things besides of the sharing your posters, as you mentioned, what are some of the other things we, first of all, as parents can do? And then
mhm,
what are the other things as a community we can do
mhm.
to assist you guys?
Cool. As a parent, know your children.
Mm,
Spend time with them. That is particularly at this time in our history. Um, Families have been so pulled apart by everything that's going on. We've got such a high rate of unemployment and abuse in the home and difficulty. Spend time with your children. Know them, know their friends, know where they go, who they go with, what they do. And if you've got those open lines of communication, you will find it so much easier to be a parent. It's when you don't take an interest that your children will stop coming to you, and that is what we need. I mean, if I look back at our childhoods, I don't think there was a moment when our parents didn't know where we were, or at the very least who we were with, or what time we'd be back. Um,
mm,
and we have parents now who will drop their children off at the mall, give them $100 and say, "Go have a good time. I'll see you at 5 o'clock tonight." 12 hours is a hell of a long time for a child to be on their own. It doesn't matter how old they are. So, in that respect, know what your children, when your child gets up in the morning and walks out the door, just take a look at what they're wearing, because it could come down to that. If that child becomes lost, you need to know what that child was wearing when they left the house, whether they were carrying a backpack. Very similar to the profile that one would build of when a crime is committed. If you robbed at gunpoint, you need to be able to describe the person who robbed you. And we have people here who can't even remember what their children were wearing in the morning. From a
But just on that point, does it mean as a parent we now has become now overprotective and almost take a photo of your child every time they leave in case something happens?
No, look, I wouldn't push it that far, but the crazy thing is, how many people don't have cell phones these days?
Hmm.
Most of us do, even if it's the cheapest, easiest one to use on the market. You'd be absolutely horrified to know how few people have photographs of their children on their phones. It's
Okay.
that crazy. I mean, I'm a photographer, so I love photographs. I'm always snapping pictures of all and sundry, except everyone except myself, because I hate photos. But my phone is filled with pictures of my children. They're the most important thing in my life, and that's what you will find on my phone: pictures of my children and my animals, and that kind of thing is absolutely vital. And the sad part is that it becomes even more important to know your children. If that child is found deceased and you don't know what they were wearing when they left, straight away. If that child has become, and it's a horrible thing to talk about, if they've been in an accident and they've been disfigured, or they're only found a week after their death,
Mhm.
the only way to be able to find out who they are is through forensics.
Sure.
And do you want that uncertainty for the next 6 to 12 months? It's a horrific subject to have to talk about. But if something as simple as knowing that your child left wearing this school uniform and carrying a pink backpack, you've got that one smaller gap between this, closure and being able to try and discover what happened. And again, I know it sounds absolutely horrific, but it's the truth, and it does happen. I mean, if you think about people that lose pets, how quickly a picture of a dog gets put up on social media and the dog is usually
Mm,
found.
mm,
Um, we need to just be a little bit more awake to what's
mm,
going on around. Stop living in that little sealed bubble and take
mm.
notice of what's going on
Yeah,
around you.
sure. Yeah, you would always almost think, and I think that's why it's always like I love talking to the people that's actually doing it. It's like when we talk to the differently able women in Women's Month. There's certain things that you kind of have in your mind set up that
Mm,
biasness that you have,
mm,
and so you almost assume that your mother, you will have a picture of your child, but now hearing it
mm,
from someone who works in this
mm,
field, how often it doesn't happen, it kind of
mhm,
gives you that wake up call of just
mhm,
realign yourself.
mhm.
Okay, so we've spoken about parents. How do we bring awareness in our communities?
As a community member, if you're driving down the street and you see a child crying on the corner,
Mm,
stop. People are so terrified to get involved because they don't want to have to go through the hassle. Um,
mm,
just stop. Think about if it was your child or if it was a child that was close to you. Would you not want somebody to stop and assist? The
mm,
same as with an accident. Are you going to just drive past, have a good look, and take a photo and keep on going? Try and get involved if you can. If you really feel that you can't assist, call in somebody who can. Bring in a professional. Go to your neighbor. You know, that's where it's so essential to know the people around you. I mean, in our complex, we know that we've got several policemen who live and work in this area. We know who our nurses are. We know who our home industry people are. So you've always got that little extra help or, like lifeline.
mm.
And have those emergency numbers on your phone. What a lot of people don't know in this country is from a cell phone, you can dial 112 to get through to emergency services if you don't have airtime. How many people know that? A lot of people, the first thing they'll do is try and phone 10111 and you'll either not get through or you'll run out of airtime.
Mm.
But it's as simple as dialing 112, asking for either fire, ambulance, or the police. And they've literally put you right through to the call center. I've been astounded that how many people don't even know that.
So 112 is the number for call center to get to anything.
Absolutely anything. I can literally pick up my phone here now, dial 112. They'll give you three options, and that, as I said, will be fire, police, or ambulance. And you choose the number which corresponds with that. If it's police, they'll put you through to the call center. You say police Port Elizabeth, and they literally put you right through to the call center.
Sure. Okay. I normally phone the 107 number. I don't know for why. I love that number.
Mm-hmm.
So I've just placed that up now. So 112, you call that without any airtime and you will get through. So please, people, remember that number. Um, it might just save a life. So I've heard what you said, and there's certainly something that we can do as a community with, again, starting that. Because I know back in the days, my mom, she was one of those busy aunties. So if a child walked past smoking with the school clothes on, she would grab him, like ask, "Why are you smoking with your school clothes?" But we kind of lost that. Um, it's almost like nie lossy kinders because hulle is net kinders. And when something like this happens, then it's like we should have. So we must kind of get back to that of, if I'm living in a road, what is your number? Where can I find? And as an adult, supposed to know the closest ambulance or police station is where, the hospital is where. Auntie down the road has nursing or can do CPR, so I need to be close to her. Um, and that is something, as I think adults, we should start getting in the habit of again. We oftentimes concentrate so much on the neighborhood watch, but they only have so much eyes and so many hands that can do so much. And just with what you guys have showed us is like one click of a button of share, copy and paste on my Facebook page. Someone else sees it, that copies, and it spreads like wildfire. So if we can do that with numbers in a road, knowing who is where, how much quicker will we be able to help someone? Okay.
Mm.
So I don't know if you have anything else to say on that before we
Well,
end.
you'll see, I've just popped a number through to you there as well. We've got so much trafficking going on at the moment.
Mm,
Um, we now have, not with our organization, but with an organization that I've worked very close with in the past, an anti-trafficking hotline, which we didn't have before, run by an incredible bunch of people, where you can actually go and you can report what if you believe there's a trafficking situation going on. You can put through an anonymous report there. You can even go and type up a report on anonymously on their website as well, which is
mm.
incredibly useful. So many lives have been saved by that. And it's as simple as knowing it exists.
What is
Um,
anti-theft? What is trafficking? Let's seeing that you brought it up, what is it?
We'll often hear, particularly in the mainstream sort of news, you'll hear about children being trafficked or adults being trafficked. Um, there are two main reasons for that. One is for sexual purposes, and the other is usually forced labor. And that is where a child or an adult will be taken from their hometown. They'll be perhaps offered this wonderful job, and they're going to make heaps and heaps of money, and they'll be able to send it home to their family. And they get taken away, and they land up in a situation that is absolutely deplorable, where they very often locked into rooms or into factories. They work day and night. Some of them are even locked into the places where they work. Some of them, unfortunately, as sort of in the sex trafficking industry as well as sex slaves, and they work for a master, and that all the money goes to the head guy.
Sure.
They get nothing out of the deal. They get abused and used horribly, and unfortunately, when their time is up, they're thrown away like garbage. Um, and as much as this sounds like something you see in the movies, it happens, and it happens in our societies. Um, and if you have any inkling that something like that is going on, or if you happen to see a post somewhere where a guy is looking for young girls or young women, and there's a price attached to it, you can
Mm,
report it to that hotline.
sure. Okay. Interesting. You normally just, yeah. I've always just seen this on movie, so it kind of, as a mom of daughters, it kind of like now
Mm,
tickles what you need to be aware of. Just on
mm,
that topic, as we end off, does it mean, besides the emotional connection that we have with kids, and I almost feel my daughter is getting to an age which is almost, next year she will be 9,
mm,
but her dad has almost been grooming her since almost 7 to kind of teach her different techniques to get out of a situation, but
mm,
not
mm,
in a fearful manner. It's like, come, daddy, show you something, and like play. So that
mm,
when something happens,
mm,
she doesn't tense up. And it's not like I need to be afraid of everyone else, but should she be in a
mm,
situation,
mm,
she has enough things that she needs
mm,
that can click into her head of
mm,
like, oh, daddy taught me this. Is that
mm,
also something that we are lacking when it comes to our kids? So besides the emotional things, we are not preparing them physically for the world out
mm,
there. Everyone is safe. And I think also the other thing
mm,
that plays into it that we have changed with our daughters. So in our colored community, we oftentimes, when we introduce another man or a woman, we say it is auntie this, uncle this.
mm,
And so
mm,
automatically, because we use that words, we have seen they are more open to go to uncle, because why? You have called them uncle. So
absolutely.
there is not that resistance of, I should be
Mm,
afraid of this gentleman. So we have
mm,
changed it over the year, where we've now, that is a sir, that is not your uncle.
mm,
So it's sir, it's ma'am. Your uncle is your uncle. So it's my
mm,
brother, it's my husband's brother, and it's not everyone is uncle, because we've kind of
mm.
seen, especially in the parks, they would, we say, greet
Sure.
the uncle, and now it's like they almost want to go with the uncle, because now
Mm,
that fear factor has been taken away. So I think in
mm,
that also a lot of awareness, I think, and I don't know if you agree, um, in how we our different communities are structured, we kind of, there's a lot of loopholes that comes into um
Mm,
breaking the barriers of the child being now not
mm,
afraid of this gentleman anymore. Or we say, go hug that person when they need to greet. So everyone
mm,
needs to be hugged. And so a different hug is not going to feel different to me anymore because you told me I need to hug that person or kiss the
mm,
uncle when you greet them. So now I'm
mm,
almost like my children. They greeted you. It's fine. If she doesn't
mm,
want to hug you,
mm.
that is all good.
Yeah,
So I don't know if that
absolutely.
has, yeah.
Absolutely, that's something that we try and teach people as well. And what people need to understand as well is that children and animals have this sixth sense. And if a
Mm,
child doesn't want to go to another adult
mm,
and their gut feeling is talking to them, don't force them. You're doing them the biggest disservice you possibly could, because children and animals have that sense, and they can tell when very often before even you as an adult can that there's something
mm,
that they're not comfortable about. Something I'd like to add to that as well is with cell phones. Cell phones are wonderful. They help us
mm,
find children just as much as they lure children away and they get them into trouble. Um,
mm.
but if there's anything that really, really gets my hackles up, it's seeing a 5-year-old child on their own with a smartphone.
Yeah.
Because, yes, a smartphone is wonderful and you can communicate and you can learn all sorts of wonderful things. But by the same token, as you would not put a revolver in a child's hands and leave the room when there are bullets loaded in those chambers, why would you do it with a smartphone? Were you opening a world to pedophilia, to trafficking, to the most unimaginable things you could possibly imagine? Put software on your children's phones that block them from certain sites. You won't be able to block all of them, but
Mm.
a 4 or 5-year-old definitely does not need to have a smartphone in their hands 24/7.
Sure. Well, people, if that haven't woken you up, then I don't know. Um, but like I said, I have certainly have learned a lot today. These there's a lot of etiquette that we do
Mm,
not know about unless we talk to the people behind. Like I say, you are
mm,
the director of the missing um person or the minor missings, so you would obviously know. So again, it's that thing of just, we normally just share the post.
mm,
I've now learned, don't do that. Go to your post,
mm,
actually go and like the page. I'm
mm,
just gonna put the page up here again. Please go like their page. Then from there, you share and you will see the new post coming through. You share that. And as Jacqui has mentioned, then once you have the page on um your Facebook post, once they updated it, it will automatically update. So you will know whether the child has been found yet or not, and then you can keep on sharing. Um, that is one. And do not go around listening to rumors as to the child has been found. And as Jackie as well as enough also told us, it is jou besigheid toe mense, what happened to the child? Because we have now already come to the conclusion that a child doesn't just run away. There is numerous of reasons why the child has run away, and that has to be discussed between family, right?
mm,
So just as though you don't want to give out your good recipe for your cake or carrot cake, this is the same thing. They don't want you to know what is going on in their family, and so respect them enough for that. There is also their traffic anti-trafficking hotline that Jackie has mentioned to us about. If you find anything, people and I must ask you this: from what age do kids normally get trafficked?
Unfortunately, there is no set age group. We do find a lot more of them are in their early teens or late teens. But for international trafficking, you're going right down to anything from babies and up.
Oh
It
my
does happen.
goodness.
Mm.
Okay. Well, another thriller there. I don't know who's gonna sleep tonight because I'm certainly not gonna sleep after this conversation. And then she also gave us another little number which you should remember. It is 112, and that number can be called from your any cell phone without dot or airtime, I assume. And then you can just also send you right through to the call center. They will tell you, do you need the fire brigade, the police, the ambulance, what do you need? And then they will put you right through to them. So jy maak keer is meer data nie mense. Airtime is uit. You don't have to call a please call me. Um Send that phone that number, and then you will be sent through to the right people. And then we also have obviously the pink ladies details. Their number is there, and their Facebook page, go to that as well. That is also if you want to volunteer as well. And volunteering can be as easy as just going to their Facebook page and sharing the post. That is as much and as little as what you can do. So with us ending off the show, we want to first of all thank Jacqui for doing this, giving up her time. And I know you are a very busy lady, but giving up your time to do this, um, so much more awareness. And as someone that is always doing organization work with others, this is information that we can share forward because we now know better. And we also, as you've known or have heard through this interview, missing persons as there is child abuse, and we will talk a bit more about child abuse when we come to the other the variations, because obviously they will work with the variations that comes and plays into this. So bullying, all of these things plays a little bit of part into what they eventually have to go and find that child. And we are very thankful for the offering that they are doing in just having this organization that has started almost 16 years ago. Am I correct in saying that?
That's correct.
And starting up this initiative. So with that, we want to say a big thank you to Jacqui for her time and for her organization. You guys have heard. If you're not, please just go back into the interview and you will find all the numbers right there, as well as good tips and tricks that you just told us that you may have missed, and then just share it with your friends and family, because I think the biggest thing that we are not doing, we are not looking out for each other anymore. We kind of just look after our own little garden, and the rest of the field is gone down almost, because as long as our grass is green, we don't care about the others. So let's look after everyone's little patch of garden and get back to that Ubuntu spirit that we've been always talking about. So I don't know, Jacqui, if you have any lasting words that you want to part with us with.
Oh, just thank you so much for the opportunity to be on here with you tonight. I'm so looking forward to the rest of your endeavors. And all I can say to the people out there is do what we're trying to do, and that is every child is my child. Just put in that little bit of interest, whether it's your child or not. That could be your child, and behave accordingly the way you would like other people to treat your children.
Yeah. And with that, I don't have to add or take away anything more. We're going to say good night. So, good night. Join us again next week, Saturday, where we will talk to a foster home, and then they will tell us a bit about their journey and their challenges with their part of this whole circle that is trying to keep our kids safe. So, see you. Have a blessed night. Keep safe, keep warm. And also keep sane, because I know in this time of days we all need a little bit of sanity. So keep sane. Good night. Bye.
Yeah.